The transport shuttle descended toward the massive orbital station that housed the Galactic Coalition Naval Academy. Inside, Commander Sarah Chen pressed her face against the viewport, watching the structure grow larger. Dozens of ships floated in designated berths around the station, each one a relic pulled from some military graveyard across the galaxy. "Looks like a scrapyard," muttered Ensign Rodriguez beside her. Chen smiled. "That's exactly what it is. The salvage wars happened every year. Every member species of the coalition had to participate. Mixed crews were assigned broken ships and given 2 weeks to make them fight-ready. It was supposed to teach cooperation and resourcefulness. For humanity, the newest members of the coalition, it was something else. It was a test they were expected to fail." The shuttle docked, and Chen led her small human contingent through the station corridors. They arrived at the briefing hall where other teams were already gathered. The room buzzed with dozens of languages being translated in real time through neural implants. Chen spotted proud Valorians with their bronze skin and ridge-crested heads, methodical Krells with their 4 arms and compound eyes, sleek Astrians who moved like liquid light. Then she saw the crew assignments. "Commander Chen," the assignment officer called. "You will lead Team 17. Your tactical officer is Lieutenant Krax of Valor. Your chief engineer is Specialist Then of Krell. The rest of your crew is already aboard your assigned vessel." Chen glanced at Lieutenant Krax. The Valorian stood nearly 7 feet tall, his ceremonial combat scars visible on his arms. He looked at her with barely concealed contempt. Humanity had only joined the coalition 5 years ago. To warriors like Krax, they were children playing at war. Specialist Then clicked his mandibles in what might have been greeting. The Krell were precise, logical, and utterly devoted to regulations. If it wasn't in the manual, it didn't exist. "Let's see our ship," Chen said. The walk through the berths was instructive. Other teams were being assigned older but functional vessels. A Valorian destroyer with scoring on its hull but intact weapons. An Astrian frigate missing its FTL drive but otherwise spaceworthy. A Krell cruiser that just needed new power conduits. Then they reached berth 17. "That's not a ship," Krax said flatly. "That's an insult." The vessel floating in the maintenance cradle was small, battered, and pathetic. Its hull showed breaches sealed with emergency patches. Scorch marks covered the port side. Several weapon mounts were empty, leaving gaping holes. The reactor housing had visible cracks. "This is the Retribution's Folly," Then read from his datapad. "Human patrol corvette, 53 years old. Decommissioned 12 years ago after sustaining critical damage in the border skirmishes. Status: irreparable by coalition standards." Chen walked closer, her eyes scanning the hull. She recognized the design. Old Earth Navy philosophy. Built thick, built tough, built to be repaired in the field with whatever you had on hand. Every system had backups. Every backup had backups. It wasn't elegant. It was practical. "I've reviewed the damage reports," Then continued. "The reactor is unstable. The hull integrity is below minimum safety thresholds. The weapon systems are stripped. By regulation, this vessel should not even be spaceworthy." "By regulation," Chen repeated. She turned to face her officers. "Lieutenant Krax, have you ever studied human military history?" "I have no need to study primitive warfare," Krax replied. "That's going to be a problem," Chen said, "because every other team in this competition is going to try to restore their ships to factory specifications. They're going to follow the manuals, use approved procedures, and build by the book." She gestured at the Folly. "We're not going to do that." "What do you propose?" Then asked carefully. "We're going to throw away the book," Chen said. "We're going to strip this ship down to its bones and rebuild it into something they've never seen before. Something they can't predict. Something that breaks every rule they expect us to follow." Krax's crest flared. "You would deliberately violate proper military doctrine?" "Military doctrine is just patterns," Chen said. "If your enemy knows your patterns, they can beat you. We're going to be unpredictable." She touched the access panel and the airlock cycled open. Inside, the rest of her crew was waiting. 15 humans, all enlisted personnel from various Earth military backgrounds. They looked tired, frustrated, and angry at their assignment. "Listen up," Chen called out. "I know what you're thinking. We got the worst ship. We got set up to fail. Everyone expects us to quit or do the minimum and take the loss." She paused. "But here's what they don't know. This isn't some alien ship built for efficiency and standardization. This is a human ship. It was built by people who understood that war is messy, chaotic, and unpredictable." She walked through the gutted bridge. Every species out there builds ships like they're precious works of art. Humans build ships like they're tools. Tools get broken. Tools get fixed. Tools get modified for whatever job needs doing. Rodriguez raised his hand. Commander, even if we get her flying, we're still the smallest ship in the competition. We've got no main weapons, no shields worth mentioning. True, Chen agreed, which means we can't fight like they expect. Big ships want to line up and trade shots. Fine, we won't be there. We'll be somewhere they don't expect, doing something they think is impossible. She pulled up a holographic display of the debris field where the war games would take place. See this? Every other crew is going to see it as an obstacle. Space to be avoided or navigated carefully. She smiled. We're going to see it as terrain, cover, ambush points. Home field advantage. Then's forearms crossed. Commander, I must protest. What you're suggesting would require extensive modifications that violate multiple safety protocols. Noted, Chen said. Are those protocols going to get us killed or just make regulators uncomfortable? The latter, Then admitted. Then we ignore them. Chen turned to her human crew. I need welders, mechanics, and people who aren't afraid to make things work with duct tape and prayer. I need pilots who can fly like they're drunk. I need gunners who understand that sometimes a kinetic round beats a plasma bolt. She looked around. I need people who understand that human engineering isn't about elegance. It's about making sure that when everything goes wrong, you've got 3 backup plans and the sheer stubbornness to make them work. A grizzled mechanic near the back spoke up. Ma'am, are you saying we should build this thing the human way? That's exactly what I'm saying, Chief. The mechanic grinned. Then we're going to need a lot of coffee and some very flexible interpretations of the regulations. I can provide detailed documentation of every regulation you'll be violating. Then said dryly. It may be therapeutic for me. Even Crack seemed intrigued. You truly believe this wreck can be made combat-worthy? No, Chen said. I believe this wreck can be made into something better than combat-worthy. I believe we can make it dangerous. She called up the ship's original specifications and started highlighting systems. We start by ripping out everything standardized. The galactic power grid goes, we wire it human-style, decentralized, redundant. They can't predict our power signature if we're running on jury-rigged systems. The armor? Someone asked. Welded at angles. Old wet Navy philosophy. Don't just stop the shot, deflect it. Make every surface a sloped armor problem. Weapons? Kinetics. Missiles. Things that work in dead space with no power. Things they've forgotten how to defend against because they're primitive. The crew was getting excited now. Chen could see it. They'd been given garbage and told to compete. Now someone was telling them to turn that garbage into a weapon. We've got 2 weeks, Chen said. Shift work round the clock. Sleep when you can. Eat when you must. This ship is going to be ugly, asymmetric, and weird. She smiled. It's going to be perfectly human. And when we're done, we're going to show the galaxy what that means. Crack straightened. I will assist, if only to see if human confidence matches human capability. That's the spirit, Chen said. Welcome to the folly, everyone. Let's make her live up to her name. The first 3 days were chaos. Chen's crew tore into the folly like surgeons performing an autopsy. Every panel came off. Every system got disconnected. Diagnostic equipment covered every surface as they mapped what worked, what didn't, and what could be made to work if you squinted and ignored the safety warnings. Then filed his first official complaint on day 2. The humans have removed the central power distribution node, he reported to Chen. Without it, the ship cannot function according to standard operational parameters. Correct, Chen said, not looking up from her welding. We're installing 6 smaller nodes instead. Redundant paths. If they blow one, we've got 5 more. That is inefficient. It adds weight and complexity. It adds survivability. Chen finished her weld and lifted her mask. Then I need you to understand something. Galactic ships are built assuming they won't take damage. Human ships are built assuming they will. We plan for catastrophic failure from the start. Then's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of thought. This seems pessimistic. It's realistic, Rodriguez called from across the bay. Anyone can build a ship that works perfectly. We build ships that work broken. The Krell engineer stood silent for a long moment. Then he pulled out his data pad. If we are abandoning centralized power distribution, I will need to recalculate the entire electrical grid. This will take considerable time. We've got 12 days, Chen said. I am aware. Then's compound eyes focused on her. I am also aware that I filed a complaint and you ignored it. This will be documented. Noted. Good. Then walk toward the engineering bay. I will document everything. The regulations we violate, the procedures we ignore, the safety margins we eliminate. He paused at the doorway. And perhaps when this is over, I will have data on whether human methods are courageous or simply suicidal. Chen grinned. I'll take either. By day 5, the folly started to look strange. Armor plating went on at odd angles, welded in place with techniques that would horrify a proper shipyard. The smooth curves favored by galactic designers were gone, replaced by sharp edges and deflection surfaces. It looked aggressive, predatory. The weapons mounting attracted the most attention. Chief Mendez, the grizzled mechanic, had sourced kinetic cannons from the station's museum. Actual museum pieces marked as historical artifacts from humanity's pre-coalition military. These things are ancient, Krax observed, watching the crew install the weapons. Why not use modern plasma projectors? Because plasma needs power, Mendez explained. These beauties? He patted the cannon. These are electromagnetic rails, capacitor-driven. We can fire them even if main power is gone. And they don't leave a heat signature like energy weapons. Primitive, Krax said, but he sounded less certain than before. Effective, Mendez corrected. You can predict energy weapons. You know their range, their recharge time, their heat bloom. These? He smiled. These are just chunks of metal moving really, really fast. Old school physics. Can't hack it. Can't jam it. Can't see it coming until it's already there. Krax ran his hand along the barrel. Show me how to operate it. The transformation wasn't just technical. Chen watched her crew bond in ways that surprised her. Humans taught aliens to curse properly, while elbow-deep in damaged systems, then learned to appreciate human humor, even if he didn't quite understand it. Krax started asking questions about human military history, fascinated by concepts like guerrilla warfare and asymmetric tactics. Your species fought wars on a single planet, Krax said one night while they worked late. Ship-to-ship combat should be alien to you, yet you seem more comfortable with it than races that have been spacefaring for thousands of years. We are uncomfortable with it, Chen admitted. That's our advantage. Galactic species grew up in space. For them, ship combat is natural. They have instincts for it. Doctrines that evolved over millennia. She pointed at the tactical display. But those instincts can be predicted. Those doctrines can be studied and countered. And humans? We're making it up as we go. We take concepts from ocean warfare, air combat, even ground tactics. We don't have space combat instincts, so we borrow from everything else. She pulled up some historical footage. See this? Ancient Earth submarine tactics. Stealth, ambush, hit and run. That's going to be our game. Krax watched the old footage with growing interest. Your submarines hunted in packs. Multiple small vessels coordinating against larger ships. Exactly. And see how they use the environment? Thermal layers in the ocean to hide. Underwater terrain for cover. They turned the sea itself into a weapon. The debris field, Krax said slowly. Now you're getting it. On day 8, the first inspection team arrived. Coalition officers whose job was to certify that each vessel met minimum safety standards. They walked through the folly with expressions ranging from confusion to horror. This vessel has no centralized computer core, the lead inspector noted. Correct, Chen replied. We're running distributed processing across 17 independent nodes. That's not standard. It's not prohibited. The inspector moved to the bridge. Your power signature is highly irregular. Our sensors can barely classify this vessel. Is that a safety violation? Chen asked innocently. No, but it's unusual. We're an unusual crew. The inspection dragged on for hours. Every modification got questioned. Every deviation from standard procedure got documented. But Chen had been careful. Nothing they did actually violated the competition rules. It was all just very, very different from how things were normally done. I cannot pass this vessel, the inspector finally said. However, I also cannot fail it. You have met the technical requirements, even if your methods are unorthodox. He looked at Chen with something like respect. I hope you know what you're doing, Commander. So do I, Chen admitted after he left. By day 12, the folly was unrecognizable. Gone was the sleek patrol corvette. In its place was something angular and aggressive. Armor plating overlapped like scales. Weapons bristled from unexpected angles. The paint job was matte black with no identifying marks beyond a small nameplate that read simply, Folly. Rodriguez took her for a test flight on day 13. Chen watched from the bridge as her pilot threw the ship through maneuvers that should have been impossible for a vessel her size. The jury-rigged power system responded instantly to changes. The unbalanced armor distribution actually helped with certain turns, using the weight as leverage. She handles like a submarine in space, Rodriguez reported, joy in his voice. Unresponsive by normal standards, but perfect for what we're doing. I can practically make her drift. Good, Chen said, because that's exactly what we're going to do. The final day before the exercise, Chen called her whole crew together in the cargo bay. They looked exhausted. 2 weeks of constant work, minimal sleep, and maximum stress. But they also looked proud. Tomorrow we enter the war games, Chen began. 20 teams. 19 of them have proper ships, proper training, and proper tactics. They're going to form alliances. They're going to fight by the book. They're going to expect everyone else to do the same. She gestured around the folly. We built this ship wrong by every standard they understand. We made her ugly. We made her weird. We made her in a way that makes inspectors nervous and other crews confused. She smiled. We made her human. The goal of the exercise is to disable the most enemy vessels or be the last ship operational. Everyone else is going to hunt for targets of opportunity. They're going to trade shots with ships their own size. They're going to try to survive as long as possible. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to hunt. We're going to use the terrain. We're going to hit them where they don't expect in ways they can't predict, and then we're going to vanish before they can respond. Crack stood. The Valorian delegation believes we will be eliminated in the first engagement. They have made bets to this effect. Let them bet, Chen said. Let everyone underestimate us. That's another advantage. Then clicked forward. I have completed my analysis, Commander. By galactic standards, we have violated 417 recommended practices. We have ignored 93 safety margins. We have implemented 0 standardized systems. He paused. I calculate our chances of survival in the exercise at 0.3%. And yet? Chen prompted, seeing something in his posture. And yet, I have also calculated that no other vessel in the competition has our specific capabilities. We are unique. In war games theory, unique capabilities are force multipliers. His mandibles clicked, and what she'd learned was amusement. I believe galactic standards may be insufficient for measuring human insanity. Therefore, I will observe and collect data. That's the spirit, Chen laughed. She looked around at her crew. Human and alien working together, ready to prove something. Tomorrow, they're going to learn what happens when humans get creative. Tomorrow, we show them that the most dangerous ship in any fleet isn't the biggest or the newest. It's the one crewed by people who refuse to quit and refuse to follow the rules. Let's make them remember the folly. The debris field stretched for hundreds of kilometers in all directions. Broken ships, shattered stations, and destroyed satellites from a dozen different wars floated in the darkness. It was a graveyard of military ambition, now converted into the arena for the salvage wars. 20 ships entered from different vectors. Chen watched her tactical display as the other vessels powered up and began moving. Already she could see patterns forming. The heavy cruisers were positioning themselves in a loose formation. The faster frigates were spreading out to scout. The destroyers were moving to screen the larger vessels. Standard galactic doctrine. Predictable. Safe. All ships. The exercise controller announced over the fleet channel. The war games begin now. Weapons are set to simulation mode. Disabled ships will be retrieved. May the best crew prevail. Take us dark, Chen ordered. Rodriguez killed the main drives and external lights. The Folly's irregular power signature dropped to almost nothing. Their sensors stayed active, but in passive mode only. To everyone else, they would look like just another piece of debris. Where are we going? Krax asked from the tactical station. Nowhere, Chen said. Let them come to us. The first hour was chaos on the common channel. Ships were calling out positions, forming alliances, arguing about territory. The Valorian crews wanted to form a battle line and fight honorably. The Astrians preferred hit-and-run tactics with their faster ships. The Krells were calculating optimal firing solutions and sharing data. Nobody mentioned the Folly. It was as if they'd forgotten she existed. Contact. Then reported quietly. Destroyer-class Valorian build. Bearing 270, range 8 kilometers and closing. They appear to be hunting for targets of opportunity. Chen studied the tactical plot. The destroyer was moving confidently, sensors active, broadcasting challenges on the common channel. They wanted a fight. They expected to find easy prey. Let them get closer, Chen said. Rodriguez, prepare cold gas thrusters only. No main engines. Ma'am, cold gas won't give us much speed. We don't need speed. We need silence. The destroyer closed to 5 kilometers. Chen could see it clearly on the visual feed now. A proud warship, weapons hot, shields up. The crew was probably excited. Their first engagement. A chance to prove themselves. They're scanning the debris, Krax reported. Active sensors. They're looking right at us. Hold, Chen whispered. 4 kilometers. 3. The destroyer was practically on top of them now. Chen could see the glow of their engines, the shimmer of their shields. Now. Cold gas burst, Vector 180. Put us behind that broken freighter section. Minimal profile. The Folly drifted, not flying, not maneuvering. Just drifting like debris caught in a gentle current. The movement was so slow, so quiet, that the destroyer's sensors didn't register it as a threat. The destroyer passed within 2 kilometers, still scanning ahead. Main power now, Chen snapped. Full reverse. Weapons free. The Folly roared to life behind the destroyer. Before their sensors could register the threat, before their crew could react, Chen's kinetic cannons opened fire. Chunks of metal traveling at relativistic speeds slammed into the destroyer's rear shields. The shields designed to stop energy weapons barely slowed the physical rounds. Armor buckled. Systems failed. The simulation computer registered catastrophic damage. Target disabled, then reported, surprise in his voice. Engagement time, 40 seconds. Jump us 3 kilometers, random vector, then dark again, Chen ordered. The Folly vanished back into the debris field. Behind them, the disabled destroyer tumbled, its crew probably still trying to figure out what happened. First blood, Krax said with satisfaction. They never even saw us. That's the point, Chen said. Then, broadcast a message on the common channel. Audio only. Just the sound of submarine sonar from old Earth. Commander? Trust me. Psychological warfare. The strange pinging sound echoed across the fleet channels. Ships started asking what the noise was. Nobody had an answer. That was good. Unknown threats were scarier than known ones. Over the next 6 hours, the Folly struck 3 more times. A frigate that strayed too close to their hiding spot. A cruiser distracted by fighting another vessel. A pair of scouts who thought they'd found an easy target and instead found themselves disabled before they could call for help. The pattern was always the same. Wait, watch, strike from an unexpected angle. Disappear before anyone could respond. By the end of day 1, Chen's crew had disabled 5 vessels. More importantly, they'd created fear. Ships were burning fuel to keep their shields up constantly. Crews were seeing threats in every shadow. The psychological advantage was worth more than the actual kills. They're calling us ghosts, Rodriguez reported, monitoring the common channels. Some crews think our ship was never properly registered. They think we're breaking the rules somehow. Let them think what they want, Chen said. Then, analysis. How are the other teams adapting? The Krell engineer brought up the tactical overview. The remaining 15 ships are forming tighter groups. They're abandoning individual tactics in favor of mutual support, standard anti-submarine doctrine from your historical databases. Good. They're learning. That makes this more interesting. On day 2, the game changed. 8 ships formed a dedicated hunter-killer group. They moved in a coordinated pattern, sensors overlapping, covering each other's blind spots. They weren't hunting for easy targets anymore. They were hunting for the Folly specifically. This is a problem, Krax observed. We cannot engage 8 ships simultaneously. We don't have to, Chen said, studying their formation. We just have to break their coordination. Then can you spoof our sensor signature? Make it look like we're in 2 places at once? Theoretically, yes. I would need to deploy a probe with a false power signature. Do it. Put our fake signal on the opposite side of the debris field. Make it look damaged and vulnerable. The hunter group took the bait. They split their formation, 5 ships going after the false signal, 3 maintaining the search pattern. Now the odds were better. There, Chen pointed at the tactical display. That destroyer on the edge of their formation. He's trailing behind to watch their rear. That makes him isolated. Still 3 ships, Rodriguez pointed out. Then we make them think there's only 2. Chen smiled. Krax, remember those Valorian honor codes you told me about? The ones about facing enemies openly? Yes, but we are not Valorians. No, but we can pretend. Chen opened a channel directly to the trailing destroyer. Valorian vessel, this is the Folly. I challenge you to single combat. Face us with honor, or admit your cowardice to your crew. The common channel exploded with arguments. The other Valorian ships were telling the destroyer to ignore the provocation. But Chen had studied the files. The destroyer's captain was young, proud, and eager to prove himself. The destroyer is breaking formation, Krax reported, disbelief in his voice. He's actually coming at us alone. Pride, Chen said. It's predictable once you understand it. Rodriguez, take us into that dense debris cluster. Make him follow us in. The chase began. The destroyer was faster in open space, but the Folly was more maneuverable in tight quarters. Rodriguez threaded them through gaps that should have been impossible, using the irregular armor distribution to scrape past obstacles that would have caught a standard ship. He's following, Rodriguez called. And he's angry. His fire control is getting sloppy. Good. Bring us around behind that station fragment, the one with the reactor core still attached. Boss, that core could be unstable. Exactly. They whipped around the fragment. The destroyer followed, weapons firing. Most shots missed, but one caught the old reactor core. It went critical and detonated. The explosion wasn't huge by space combat standards, but it was enough. Debris slammed into the destroyer's shields. Blinded and damaged, the ship couldn't avoid the follow-up kinetic barrage from the Folly. Target disabled, then reported. Remaining 7 hunter-killers are converging on our position. Time to run, Chen said. Full power, get us out of here. They fled deeper into the debris field, the hunter group in pursuit. But Chen wasn't just running. She was leading them on a specific path, through areas she'd memorized during their preparation time. They're spreading out to cut off our escape routes, Krax warned. Let them. Chen checked her navigation. Then how much power do we have in the capacitors? Enough for approximately 1 full weapons burst. That's all I need. Rodriguez, on my mark, full stop. Rotate 180 degrees. All power to forward shields. That's suicide, Krax protested. That's commitment, Chen corrected. Mark. The Folly stopped dead in space and spun to face her pursuers. For a moment, 7 ships bearing down on one tiny corvette. Then Chen's weapons opened fire. Not at the ships. At the debris around them. Kinetic rounds shattered old hull plating, fractured structural beams, and broke apart massive chunks of dead stations. The debris exploded outward in all directions like a deadly expanding shell. The hunter group scattered. Ships took evasive action. Shields failed under the barrage of physical impacts. In the chaos, 3 ships collided with each other trying to avoid the debris storm. 4 more disabled. Then reported, astonishment clear in his voice. I did not calculate that tactic as viable. That's because it's insane, Chen admitted. But it worked. Rodriguez, get us out of here before the remaining 3 reorganize. They vanished back into the maze of dead ships and broken dreams, leaving 8 disabled vessels in their wake, 13 total now, more than half the competition. In the exercise command center, Admiral Thex stood before the tactical display, his crest fully extended in disbelief. That ship should have been eliminated in the first hour, he said quietly. How is a scrap corvette outfighting vessels 3 times its tonnage? Captain Williams, the human observer, smiled. Because Commander Chen isn't fighting a space battle, Admiral. She's fighting a naval engagement. There's a difference. Explain. Space combat doctrine assumes 3 dimensions and infinite maneuver room. Ships are meant to see each other coming and engage at range. Williams pointed at the debris field. But Commander Chen is treating this like submarine warfare. She's using terrain. She's using psychology. She's using the environment as a weapon. He paused. And most importantly, she's doing things that your doctrine says are impossible or foolish. That makes her unpredictable. And in combat, unpredictable is dangerous. Admiral Thex watched the Folly disappear into the debris once again. If this is human naval doctrine, we may need to revise our entire understanding of space combat. That, William said, is exactly what she's counting on. The remaining 7 ships held an emergency conference on a secured channel. Chen couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could see the results. They stopped hunting individually. They stopped following doctrine. They started working together in a way that transcended species in training. They're learning, Krax observed from tactical. They know they cannot beat us using standard methods. Good, Chen said, though her stomach was tight with tension. That means we hurt them enough to make them adapt. The question is, can we adapt faster? Then pulled up the tactical overview. All 7 remaining vessels are forming a coordinated search pattern. They're dividing the debris field into sectors and methodically clearing each one, overlapping sensor coverage. Mutual fire support. If we're detected in any sector, we'll face multiple ships immediately. They're using our own tactics against us, Rodriguez muttered. Chen studied the display. The search pattern was elegant, efficient, and professional. It was exactly what she would have done in their position, which meant it was also predictable. They're treating this like a search and rescue operation, she said, or a mine sweep. Clear each sector, mark it safe, move to the next one. That's sound doctrine, Crack said. It's also slow, and it assumes we're hiding, waiting to be found. Chen smiled grimly. What if we're not hiding anymore? What if we're hunting them while they hunt us? Commander, we're 1 ship against 7, then pointed out logically. Numbers don't matter if they can't bring them all to bear at once. Chen pointed at the search pattern. See how they're spread out? They have to be to cover the area. That means any individual ship is briefly isolated as they move between sectors. You want to pick them off one at a time, Crack said, understanding dawning, while they're in transition. Exactly. But we can't use the same ambush tactics. They're expecting that now. We need something different. Rodriguez leaned forward. What if we made them think we're more damaged than we are? Lure 1 ship away from the others with an easy target? They won't fall for that again, Chen said. We've used that trick. They'll assume it's a trap. Silence fell on the bridge. Outside, the 7 ships continued their methodical advance. Section by section, the debris field was being cleared. Eventually, they'd corner the folly. Eventually, even human ingenuity wouldn't be enough. Then Then spoke up. Commander, I have a completely inadvisable idea. Chen turned to him. Those are my favorite kind. We could execute a controlled reactor shutdown. Make it appear as though we've suffered catastrophic damage. Our power signature would drop to near 0. They would assume we're disabled. But we'd be disabled, Rodriguez objected. By regulation, a reactor restart requires 40 minutes minimum. By regulation, yes, Then said slowly. However, the humans have violated 417 regulations already. What's one more? His mandibles clicked. I have studied your reactor modifications. Theoretically, I could restart the reactor in approximately 90 seconds. Theoretically. Theoretically, Chen repeated. What's the risk? Complete reactor failure, explosive decompression, and death for everyone aboard. And if it works, we would have the element of complete surprise against an enemy that believes us defeated. Chen looked around her bridge. Her crew was exhausted. They'd been fighting for nearly 2 days straight. The Folly was battered, her systems running on backup power and desperate prayers. One more engagement might finish them anyway. Do it, she decided. Cracks, prepare all weapons for a simultaneous firing solution. Everything we've got left all at once. Rodriguez, plot an attack run that assumes we'll go from 0 power to full combat power in 90 seconds. That's insane, Rodriguez said. I believe that has been established. Then replied. Initiating shutdown sequence now. The bridge lights flickered and died. Emergency lighting clicked on, casting everything in red. The steady hum of the reactor faded to silence. On every ship's sensors, the Folly's signature dropped to nothing. Chen activated the emergency broadcast beacon, making sure everyone could hear. She let panic creep into her voice. This is Commander Chen of the Folly. We've suffered critical reactor failure. Life support failing. Requesting immediate assistance. Please respond. On the common channel, she could hear the other crews reacting. Some suggested helping. Others argued they should verify the kill first. Military efficiency versus compassion. 2 ships are breaking formation, Cracks reported, his voice quiet in the darkness. Closing on our position. Which ships? Chen asked. 1 Valorian, 1 Krell. The others are maintaining their search pattern. Chen smiled in the darkness. Perfect. 2 ships means we don't face the whole fleet, but it's enough to make this look legitimate. Then how's that restart looking? I am manually overriding approximately 70 safety systems. This would normally take a team of engineers several hours. I am doing it in the dark with 4 hands. In 80 seconds, we will either have power or be dead. Fair enough. The wait was excruciating. Chen watched the approaching ships on the passive sensors. 1 minute out. 45 seconds, 30. They were coming in cautiously but curiously. A disabled human ship. They wanted to see what made it special. 15 seconds, then counted down. 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, initiating reactor restart. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the reactor core flickered to life. Power surged through the Folly's improvised electrical grid. Lights snapped on. Weapons charged. Shields rose. The approaching ships had maybe 2 seconds to react. Not nearly enough. Fire everything, Chen commanded. The Folly became a sphere of destruction. Kinetic rounds. Missiles from hidden tubes. Even the point defense guns fired in the same instant. Every weapon they'd carefully hoarded for exactly this moment. The Valorian ship's shields collapsed under the barrage. The Krell vessel tried to evade but took critical damage to its drive section. Both ships were disabled before they could return fire. 15 disabled, Krax reported. But the other 5 know we're here now. They're converging fast. Rodriguez, get us moving. Maximum acceleration, away from their formation. Boss, we're already at the edge of the debris field. There's nowhere left to run. Chen looked at the tactical display. The 5 remaining ships were coming in a perfect formation, covering each other's approaches. No gaps, no mistakes. They'd learned too well. Then we don't run, Chen said quietly. We charge. Straight at them. That's suicide, Rodriguez protested. Probably, Chen agreed. But it's not predictable. Then give me everything in the reactor. Route it all to the forward shields. Strip power from life support sensors, everything non-essential. Commander, that will leave us blind and unable to breathe for approximately 5 minutes. Then we better make this count. Cracks plot firing solutions. We're going to punch through their formation. As we pass each ship, we take a shot. 1 shot per target, maximum power, then we're gone. They'll tear us apart, Crack said. Maybe, but we'll take some of them with us. And we'll prove that humans don't quit. She paused. Besides, do you have a better idea? Crax's crest flared in what she'd learned was Valorian respect. No, Commander, I do not. It has been an honor serving with you. Don't get sentimental yet. We might survive this. The Folly accelerated toward the incoming formation. Every scrap of power pushed the little corvette faster. Her forward shields glowed with the strain of stopping cosmic radiation at relativistic speeds. The 5 ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic rounds filled the space between them. The Folly's shields held, barely. Warning alarms screamed. Systems failed. Hull breaches sealed automatically. The lights failed, then the backup lights. In the darkness and chaos, Chen could only trust her crew to do their jobs. They hit the formation at maximum speed. As they passed the first ship, Crax's weapons fired. Point-blank range. Impossible to miss. The enemy vessel reeled away, disabled. The second ship tried to evade. Rodriguez somehow kept them on target. Another shot. Another kill. The third ship was ready. Their return fire punched through the weakened shields and tore into the Folly's hull. Atmosphere vented. Alarms that had been screaming went silent as power died. But Crax's weapons fired one more time. 3 disabled. The fourth ship got a clear shot. Kinetic rounds ripped through the engineering section, then made a sound Chen had never heard from a Krell before. A cry of pain or surprise. The 5th ship was right in front of them. No time for weapons. Rodriguez did the only thing possible. He rammed them. The impact threw everyone forward against their restraints. Metal screamed. Systems that had been barely functional stopped working entirely. The Folly tumbled through space, powerless and broken. In the command center, Admiral Theck stared at the tactical display. Retrieve all crews immediately. Emergency rescue protocols. Sir, the final count? The human corvette disabled 19 of 20 vessels before being destroyed itself. Thex paused, struggling with the words. That's unprecedented. Completely unprecedented. Captain Williams was already moving toward the shuttle bay. I need to get out there. Why the rush? Because if Commander Chen survived that, I need to shake her hand. And if she didn't? Williams paused at the door. Then the galaxy needs to know what she did. What humans can do when you back them into a corner and tell them it's impossible. The rescue crews found the Folly's crew alive but unconscious, held in place by emergency fields that had deployed at the last second. The ship herself was wrecked beyond repair. But floating in her cargo bay, carefully protected even in the final moments, were detailed schematics of every modification they'd made. Chen had made sure the data would survive even if they didn't. Because this wasn't just about winning a competition. It was about proving what human engineering and human tactics could accomplish. When Chen woke up in the medical bay, Admiral Thex was standing beside her bed. "Commander, the exercise has been concluded. Your team is credited with 19 eliminations. No other team has managed more than 4 in the entire history of the salvage wars." Chen tried to sit up, winced, and lay back down. "Did everyone survive?" "All crew members are recovering. Your Krell engineer filed his final report. Would you like to hear it?" "Sure." Thex pulled out a datapad and read, "The humans violated all standards, ignored all safety protocols, and succeeded through methods that should not work. I can only conclude that galactic military doctrine is fundamentally flawed. We have been fighting the same way for so long that we forgot war is not about following rules. It's about winning." The humans remembered. "I recommend immediate revision of all coalition naval procedures to incorporate human principles." Chen smiled through the pain. "That's high praise from Then, indeed. Commander, I need you to understand something. 3 hours ago, we received word that the Devourers are massing at the Galactic Rim. They're coming in force. The Coalition is scrambling to prepare defenses. I don't understand what that has to do with me." "Everything, Commander, because you just proved that a single ship with the right crew and the right tactics can defeat forces much larger than itself. The Coalition has thousands of obsolete ships in mothball fleets, ships we thought were worthless." Thex leaned forward. "How would you like to turn scrap into a weapon one more time? But this time for real stakes?" Chen looked at the ceiling, processing. Then she started to laugh, which hurt. "Something amusing?" Thex asked. "Just thinking about what happens when you give humans a bunch of broken ships and tell them to fight an impossible enemy. You'd think the galaxy would learn not to do that." "So you'll do it?" "Admiral, I'm going to need a lot of coffee. A very flexible reading of regulations and crews who aren't afraid to make things work with duct tape and determination." "Can you win?" "Win? I don't know. But I can promise you this. Those Devourers are going to regret the day they decided to fight humans." 3 months. That's all they had. 3 months to turn the Coalition's largest liability into its only hope. Captain Chen, promoted overnight from commander, stood in the main hangar of Depot Station 7. Around her stretched dozens of broken warships, cruisers with cracked hulls, destroyers missing entire sections, frigates that hadn't moved under their own power in decades. Every species, every design, every failure the Coalition had ever produced, all gathering dust in forgotten corners of space. "This is our fleet?" Krax asked, now wearing the insignia of executive officer. "This is our raw material," Chen corrected. "By the time we're done, these ships won't look anything like they do now." Word had spread fast about the salvage wars, the human who turned garbage into victory. The crew that broke every rule and won anyway. Now Chen had thousands of volunteers, humans certainly, but also Valorians who respected audacity, Krells who wanted to see if the data supported human methods, Astrians curious about new tactics, even species she'd never heard of, attracted by the possibility of the impossible. "We're calling this the 13th Expeditionary Squadron," Chen announced at the first assembly. 10,000 beings filled the hangar, representing every member species of the Coalition. Officially, we're a reserve force. Unofficially, we're the irregular fleet. Our job is simple: take these broken ships and make them into something the Devourers have never seen before. A Valorian engineer raised his hand. "Captain, these vessels are beyond repair by standard methods. Some have been derelict for 50 years. "Then it's good we're not using standard methods," Chen replied. "Every ship in this fleet is going to be rebuilt the human way. Redundant systems, asymmetric armor, unconventional weapons, and most importantly, unpredictable tactics." She pulled up a holographic display showing the Follies schematics. "This is our template. Not the specific design, but the philosophy. Build ships that work broken. Build ships that can be repaired in the field with whatever you've got. Build ships that make enemy sensors confused and enemy commanders nervous." Then, now chief engineer of the entire operation, clicked his mandibles for attention. "I have divided the volunteer crews into specialist teams. Each team will take one derelict vessel. You will have access to the Follies modification database. However, you are encouraged to improvise. The goal is not uniformity. The goal is diversity. Every ship should be unique." Over the following weeks, the depot stations transformed into controlled chaos. Welding torches lit up the darkness. Metal screamed as old hulls were cut apart and reassembled. Engineers from different species argued, collaborated, and created things that had never existed before. A Krell destroyer had its entire weapons array replaced with kinetic accelerators and missile tubes. An Astrian frigate was stripped to its frame and rebuilt as a stealth ship, covered in radar-absorbing human materials. A human patrol boat was fitted with Valorian shield generators arranged in a mobile configuration that could shift power on demand. Chen walked through the construction bays daily, watching human ingenuity spread like a virus. A young Astrian engineer showed her how they'd mounted weapons on gimbals, allowing 360-degree firing arcs. A Valorian crew demonstrated armor plating that could separate and move independently, creating false targets on enemy sensors. They're learning to think like humans, Rodriguez observed, watching a mixed crew troubleshoot a power distribution problem with duct tape and swearing. No, Chen corrected. They're learning to think like irregulars. Human methods are just one way to be unpredictable. Each species brings their own perspective. We're teaching them that doctrine is a suggestion, not a law. Not everyone approved. Coalition Command sent inspector after inspector. Each one filed reports about safety violations, non-standard procedures, and dangerous modifications. Each report was acknowledged and ignored. Admiral Thex visited during the second month. He walked through the bays in silence, watching crews work. Finally, he found Chen in the Tactical Planning Center. This is either brilliant or catastrophic, he said. I cannot yet determine which. Probably both, Chen admitted. How's the main fleet preparing? Standard defensive formations. Textbook responses to invasion scenarios. Every ship will be positioned according to doctrine. Thex looked uncomfortable. We're preparing to fight the way we've always fought. And the Devourers have been watching you fight that way for years, Chen said. They've studied every battle, every tactic, every response. They know exactly what you're going to do. Which is why we need you. Thex activated a holographic display of the galactic rim. Red markers indicated Devourer fleet positions. There were hundreds of them. Our intelligence suggests they'll attack here at the Tertian sector. It's the weakest point in our defensive line. You want us to reinforce the line? I want you to do what humans do best. Something unexpected. Chen studied the display. The Devourers were massing for a traditional invasion. Overwhelming force at a single point. Break through, expand the breach, roll up the defensive line. Standard military doctrine that had worked for 1,000 years. What if we don't defend the line? Chen said slowly. What if we attack their supply lines while they're focused on the breakthrough? That would require penetrating deep into hostile territory with inferior numbers. Yes, it would, Chen smiled. Sounds perfect for an irregular fleet. The Devourers arrived exactly when predicted, exactly where predicted, with exactly the force predicted. Coalition intelligence was excellent. Coalition planning was precise. The battle began according to doctrine. The Devourer fleet hit the defensive line with massive force. Coalition ships fought back with coordination and discipline. It was a battle that could have come from any textbook, and the outcome was predictable. The coalition line would hold for approximately 18 hours before collapsing. But 60 light-years behind the Devourer front lines, the irregular fleet emerged from hyperspace. Chen's flagship, rebuilt from an old human carrier and renamed Audacity, led the formation. Around her were 93 ships, no two alike. They looked like a refugee fleet, an abandoned collection of scrap. They were the most dangerous force the galaxy had seen in centuries. All ships, Chen broadcast. Remember, we're not here to fight fair. We're here to win. Target their supply convoys, their fuel depots, their communication relays. Make them think we're everywhere. Make them panic. The irregular fleet split into wolf packs of 3 to 5 ships each. No central coordination. No master plan. Each group was given objectives and told to accomplish them however they saw fit. Captains who'd spent weeks learning to think like irregulars were now free to prove what they'd learned. A Krell destroyer ambushed a supply convoy using tactics from ancient human submarine warfare. A mixed human-Valorian pack destroyed a fuel depot with kinetic rounds and vanished before reinforcements arrived. An Astrian stealth ship infiltrated a Devourer communication hub and broadcast false orders across their entire fleet. The Devourers had planned for a stand-up fight against a predictable enemy. Instead, they were fighting a ghost fleet that struck from nowhere and vanished before responses could be coordinated. Their carefully orchestrated invasion began to unravel. At the front line, the main coalition fleet held longer than expected. Enemy reinforcements didn't arrive. Supply lines failed. Conflicting orders caused confusion. The The Devourers had numerical superiority but couldn't bring it to bear effectively. In the Devourer command ship, their supreme commander struggled to understand what was happening. Every report contradicted the last. Enemy ships appeared in sectors that should have been secure. Critical infrastructure was being destroyed by vessels that shouldn't exist. "How many ships are attacking our rear?" the commander demanded. "Intelligence estimates between 90 and 100 vessels, Supreme Commander." "And they're defeating our security forces?" "The enemy vessels are highly irregular. Our doctrine has no response protocols for their tactics. They do not fight as the coalition fights." "Then what are they?" The communications officer looked up, confusion clear. "Sir, we've intercepted some of their transmissions. They call themselves humans." The Devourer commander accessed his database. Humans. The newest coalition member. Primitive. Barely spacefaring. No threat. How is one minor species disrupting our entire invasion? No one had an answer. The battle lasted 3 days. The coalition main fleet held the line. The irregular fleet tore apart the Devourer logistics network, and when the Devourers finally tried to withdraw and regroup, they found their retreat routes cut off by ships that shouldn't have been there. The final count was devastating for the Devourers. 60% casualties, entire battle groups disabled or destroyed, survivors limping back toward the galactic rim, traumatized by an enemy they couldn't predict or counter. The coalition had won, not through superior firepower or numbers, through unpredictability, adaptability, and the willingness to break every rule in the book. 6 months later, Admiral Chen, now wearing her 3rd promotion in a year, stood at the commissioning ceremony for the first official Chen-class irregular warfare vessel. It was beautiful in its ugliness, asymmetric, aggressive, covered in weapons at odd angles. Every coalition species had contributed to the design. "This vessel represents a new philosophy of warfare," Admiral Thex announced to the assembled dignitaries. "For too long, we believed there was one correct way to fight. One proper doctrine. One standard approach," he paused. "Humanity taught us that when the enemy knows your patterns, the answer isn't to execute them better. The answer is to have no patterns at all." Chen stood beside him, uncomfortable with the attention. Behind her were the original Folly crew. Krax, now commanding his own irregular squadron, then who'd published 3 papers on human engineering principles. Rodriguez training new pilots in unconventional maneuvers. "The humans gave us a gift," Thex continued. "They showed us that the most powerful weapon isn't technology or numbers. It's the refusal to accept limitations, the willingness to make something work even when every expert says it's impossible." After the ceremony, Chen found herself alone on the observation deck, looking at the new, irregular fleet. Hundreds of ships, each one unique, each one crewed by beings who'd learned to think outside doctrine. Captain Williams, her old observer from the war games, joined her at the window. "You've changed the galaxy, Sarah." "I just built some ships differently." "You did more than that. You proved that there's no such thing as useless material or hopeless situations. You proved that creativity beats conformity, that adaptability beats doctrine." He smiled. "You proved that the most dangerous force in any conflict is the one that refuses to quit and refuses to follow the rules everyone else accepts as gospel." Chen thought about the Folly, that scrap Corvette that started everything. They'd given her garbage and expected failure. Instead, she'd built a prototype for a revolution in military thinking. "The Devourers will come back," Chen said quietly. "Better prepared next time." "Probably," Williams agreed. "But next time we'll be ready. And more importantly, we'll be unpredictable, because you can't prepare for an enemy that doesn't fight the same way twice." Chen watched a training exercise through the viewport. New irregular crews practicing impossible maneuvers, mixed species working together, ships that looked like they shouldn't fly but somehow did. "They gave us a scrap ship," Chen said softly, repeating the words that had become the irregular fleet's motto. "They built a prototype. We made it a fleet killer, and now?" Williams asked. Chen smiled. "Now we teach the whole galaxy that the difference between scrap and a weapon is just perspective. And humans are very good at seeing potential where others see only failure." Below them, the irregular fleet assembled for its next mission. Hundreds of impossible ships crewed by thousands of beings who'd learned the most important human lesson. That impossible is just another word for nobody's tried it the right way yet. The galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere in the darkness of space, Enemies not yet encountered would eventually learn what the Devourers had learned the hard way. Never underestimate a species that builds weapons from garbage and calls it innovation. Never underestimate a crew that looks at overwhelming odds and sees an interesting challenge. And never ever underestimate humans when you tell them something can't be done, because they'll take that challenge personally. They'll turn your scrap into their prototype, and then they'll turn that prototype into a fleet that rewrites all the rules. They'd done it once with the Folly. Now they'd done it with an entire fleet. And the message was clear across the galaxy. Humanity had arrived and they were changing everything. Not through conquest. Not through superior technology. But through the simple, revolutionary idea that there's no such thing as a hopeless situation. For people who refuse to accept defeat, the irregular fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for the next mission. Behind them, the Chen-class vessel hung in space like a promise. Or perhaps a warning. The humans had learned to fight in space. And they'd taught the galaxy that sometimes the best weapon isn't the newest or the biggest. Sometimes it's the one that nobody expected to work at all.